Life on an aircraft carrier. Lieutenant Paul Harkin opened his eyes, roused from his rack by the familiar sounds and motions of the USS Abraham Lincoln as it sliced through the azure waters of the Arabian Sea. Even in his sleep, he was acutely aware of the constant thrum of the nuclear reactors, the background hum of machinery, and the occasional shudder as the ship adjusted course. This massive steel behemoth had been his home for the last 8 months as the Lincoln carried out its mission of force projection and deterrence in the volatile region. With a crew of over 5,000 personnel, the Nimitz-class aircraft carrier was a self-contained maritime city, newly departed from port after a handful of days of restocking and shore leave in Bahrain. Harkin swung his legs out of his rack, the Navy's version of a bed, and pulled on the crisp digital camouflage of his utilities. As the ship's operational intelligence officer, his day started before the sun cleared the horizon. After a shave and brushing his teeth in the shared bathroom, he made his way to the officer's wardroom for a simple breakfast before relieving the mid-watch section in the Intelligence Command Center. The corridors were dimly lit but alive with the sound of footsteps, equipment carts being rolled, and muffled conversations as the crew went about their daily routines. Despite its immense size, one could get turned around in the labyrinthine passageways if not careful. Harkin had been aboard for nearly a year, but shipboard life still felt somewhat disorienting at times. In the wardroom, he filled up on eggs, sausage, and black coffee before heading up to the Intelligence Command Center, usually referred to as the ICC. Stepping through the secure door, he was greeted by a compact room stuffed with communications gear, computer workstations, and banks of displays feeding in data from sensors and intelligence sources across the theater. A U.S. Navy warship at sea was a self-defending strike platform, and this was its neural center. "What's the latest, Drew?" he asked the chief petty officer leading the mid-watch. "All's quiet for now, sir. We have the Zumwalts monitoring for surface contacts, the E-2DS overhead are keeping an eye out, and Cyber is watching the net." Harkin scanned the situation reports and operational status as he settled in. The Lincoln's air wing had around 60 aircraft aboard, including F/A-18 Super Hornets, E-2 Hawkeyes, and various support craft like the C-2 Greyhounds that ferried personnel and cargo to the ship. With its nuclear propulsion, it could remain on station for years if required, receiving supplies and rotating crew members at sea. The day took on its rhythm as the watchstanders analyzed the steady streams of signals, intelligence, imagery, and communications. The carrier didn't go anywhere without being tracked and assessed as a potential threat. Harkin worked to synthesize it all, providing reports and actionable intelligence to the command staff. Occasionally the klaxon sounded, ordering the crew to battle stations and the shuttering of watertight doors for combat drills. Though an actual attack was deemed unlikely, the repetition kept everyone sharp and prepared for the worst. The greatest risk was the constant flight operations as aircraft were launched and recovered in an intricate, high-stakes dance using the foredeck spanning catapults and arrestor cables. Harkin was in the middle of analyzing a Russian merchant ship's transponder data when the announcement rang out, "Rampart, Rampart, Rampart. Divert all personnel from the flight deck. Brace for incoming." His heart skipped a beat at the unmistakable warning that an aircraft was in trouble. A wave of commotion swept through the ICC as stations checked on the emergency at hand. Moments later, details came over the 1MC announcing system. Aircraft 310, call sign Viper 24, has suffered a flameout on approach and will attempt a barricade arrestment on the angle deck. The images on the monitors showed a smoke-trailing F/A-18 Super Hornet struggling to maintain altitude as it lined up for the landing area at the rear of the flight deck. In the background, planes were already being waved off or trapped by the revdeckers, as the landing teams worked feverishly to raise the emergency barricade spans across the angled deck. Harkin gripped his chair, watching with dread as the wounded fighter slammed into the barricade spans, its landing hook catching the steel cable and bringing it to a jolting halt. After the sickening sound of twisting metal, the jet's nose dipped down as it shed its remaining forward momentum, billows of smoke and steam obscuring it for several tense seconds. Finally, the all-clear was issued as the pilot was confirmed safe, and the deck crews sprang into action like a NASCAR pit crew, securing the aircraft and clearing the landing area. Life aboard the flat top could go from intense to mundane in the span of a heartbeat. As one crisis was averted, the cycle of flight operations resumed with the launch and recovery of jets at